What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Very Cold Lasagna podcast, the podcast that houses a safe and open listening platform for casual, hot, cold, and even the dumbest takes on the world of WWE, AEW, the NFL, and the wide world of wrestling and sports in general. I'm your host, DylanLasagna. Welcome to episode number 19 of this freezing cold podcast. And can you believe it? Episode number 19. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. But anyway, I digress. Welcome to today's show. And today, we have another good show for you all, because we're going to be talking about Monday Night RAW. Yes, the so-called flagship show for WWE, the longest reigning weekly episodic television show, at least that's what WWE wants to tell you, in history. We're going to be talking about why, in my opinion, and from my perspective, why it absolutely is a dreadful thing to watch nowadays, why it sucks, and the people watching it suck too, and why it will continue to suck until we'll get to the until when we get there. But for now, I want to say a couple of things. I do want to say that Raw nowadays is dreadful, but it's not just Raw. It's wrestling as a whole in general. There's no characters, no storylines. It's just all flips, kicks, and all that dumb shit. It's just a bunch of match marking bullshit. And I'm going to continue to talk about that when we talk about Monday Night Raw, because it unfortunately has made its way to the Mondays too. But it's kind of sad when you think about it, where wrestling is. There's no larger than life personalities, no way to be invested in a large chunk of these wrestlers. So that's kind of the reason why I wanted to talk about Monday Night Raw in this particular episode of Very Cold Lasagna. But not only that, I guess it was just kind of a breaking point for me. Not just seeing how bad Monday Night Raw is, but the people too. Because we're going to get into that as well. But in short, the people that are constantly, mindlessly, as you could tell, if you're watching the video version, they unnecessarily continue to watch the show without any breaks whatsoever. It's kind of ridiculous if you ask me. If you want to have a better use of your time, like I'm doing, go watch something else. Go play a video game. Invest in something better. I recently invested in a Power A, you guys can't see it, a Power A Xbox controller for my PC, because I actually figured out how to get it working for the PC version of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And you asked me, why am I playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas in the year 2021 when there's Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PC? Well, first of all, GTA 5 is not as good as San Andreas. Oh no, the people are going to attack me. Secondly, San Andreas is kind of a bitch to run on PC, like especially when it comes to controller support, and I hate playing with keyboard and mouse. I can't stand it. And I know this is not sports or wrestling related, but you got to get all the life issues out of the way first. So that's what I've been up to. And another thing that I've been up to is Mortal Kombat came out. I'm planning to watch that as soon as I'm done with the podcast today, and I'm gonna go check that out on HBO Max. And I'm still kind of surprised they actually made a Mortal Kombat movie. I know there were like two in the past, the first Mortal Kombat movie, and then Mortal Kombat was it called Annihilation? And those two movies were very, very sus. It was very sussy. And the reviews came out. I'm not paying attention to the reviews, but the reviews are pretty okayish. They're very okayish. So I'm going in personally expecting a lot of blood and guts, no pun intended, to AEW, but I'm hoping for at least a decent Mortal Kombat movie once it's all said and done. And then, of course, my true WrestleMania is coming up in less than a week, and that is the NFL draft. And personally, I am excited for the NFL draft because of what the 49ers are going to do at number 3 overall. That's when the NFL draft is truly going to begin, because we already know what's going to happen at number 1 and number 2 with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Jets. So the draft truly begins at 3 with the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm still kind of stunned with the way the draft has turned out. We were kind of like, oh, it's just going to go this way. Like, X team is going to draft this person or such and such. But ever since the trade happened between the Miami Dolphins and the 49ers, you kind of start to wonder, like, whatever move the 49ers make, even if it's just a quarterback, or maybe it's not a quarterback, it might be someone else, but in all reality, it is going to be a quarterback. It's going to affect a lot of the other team's decision. Who are they going to pick? Especially if it's another team, like, let's say, the Atlanta Falcons or the Denver Broncos. Whichever quarterback the 49ers are going to take at number 3 next week, it's going to affect a lot of decision-making for other teams. So I'm excited for the NFL draft. Speaking of the NFL draft, next week's episode, the day before the NFL draft, hopefully I can get that out in time, is going to be kind of like my final preview of sorts for the NFL draft for all 32 teams. And I'm pretty excited to talk about that. That filthy, average NFL casual fan in me is coming back to talk about the draft. If y'all remember last week's episode where it was an interesting process of how I went through that draft scouting episode. But the Filthy Casual is returning next week to preview all 32 teams for the NFL draft. So next week, we're going to be talking about the NFL draft. Hopefully, it'll be out the day before the draft starts on Thursday, April 29th. I'm pretty excited, and for all of you that follow football, are excited too for your teams. Hopefully they get the right player and the right pick, as well as my San Francisco 49ers. But that's besides the case. We're here to talk about Monday Night Raw. But before we do, we got to get them plugs in. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're not subscribed yet, please do. Please do. Subscribe. Turn on that notification bell so you'll be notified of each and every episode that goes up on the channel and when it goes up. You'll also be notified of exclusive YouTube videos that are not seen or heard on the audio side of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast. Speaking of the audio side of things, please go listen to me on Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You can listen to me on the car, on a walk outside, anywhere you can. So go check it out. We've actually had a couple of new listens lately, so I really appreciate the support on the audio side of things. And as always, if you want to, you can follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. So let's talk about today's topic, Monday Night Raw. Why does Monday Night Raw suck? And I know what you're seeing if you're watching the video version side of things, and on the other side of things, why does Monday Night Raw suck? And why do the people that watch Monday Night Raw, why do they suck too? We're gonna break it down half by half. We're gonna talk about why Monday Night Raw sucks, and then we're gonna talk about why the people that watch it suck too. Let's first talk about Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw, I already said it before, the flagship show for WWE for 20 plus years, the most must-see episodic, whatever have you, weekly television show in the history of WWE and in TV in general. At least what WWE wants you to think. Nowadays, it doesn't live up to its name. Before, you can say that. You can say that. When you had storylines like Austin versus McMahon, The Rock, Triple H, and DX. Remember that DX Express and DX invading WCW? You even had side stories that were actually pretty interesting, like Trish Stratus and the whole Mr. McMahon fiasco, Chyna and Eddie Guerrero, Mark Henry and Mae Young. you gotta remember that, man. Come on. That was all back during the Attitude Era. And even there were some good storylines to come out of the Ruthless Aggression Era. DX versus the McMahons. I know that's debatable, but for me, that was the stuff I personally grew up with. DX versus the McMahons, John Cena versus Edge. What else we have? Ric Flair still being able to go at it during, not in his, like, I guess you could call it a second prime. Speaking of second prime, Shawn Michaels during his second prime, his comeback, his second phase of his career after that back injury. Then you had Goldberg's brief run, The Rock's Hollywood run, his Hollywood gimmick. I honestly wish that went longer. That went much longer. The heel Rock gimmick. Then you had Eric Bischoff's reign as Raw General Manager, Triple H's Evolution stable, and his Reign of Terror, as most people like to call it, during that phase of Raw. There was some really good shit during both the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era days of Monday Night Raw. Nowadays, and especially since 2016, Monday Night Raw has been a sinking ship. I can't really think of a very good storyline since 2016 that has been good. It has been very good. Hell, even 2012 to 2016, the one good storyline they had going for it, and this is very arguable, and a lot of casual fans don't like it, but there are some casual fans that do like it too, and I know a lot of hardcore fans do, was Daniel Bryan. That was arguably one of the last good storylines, and that's very debatable. That is a very debatable storyline that can be considered good. But in essence, it also killed WWE in the long term, because look where we are now. They encouraged more matches with no story nor characters, and look where they are now with how the whole Daniel Bryan thing went in 2012. Now, this is not a knock on Daniel Bryan, because honestly, they had to run with it. They honestly had to run with it, because if they didn't, then you didn't know what you were going to have with Daniel Bryan. The popularity was at its peak. You just had to roll with it. But we're not here to talk about Daniel Bryan, because I already talked so much about D-Bry. We're here to talk about Monday Night Raw, the modern day Monday Night Raw, why it's terrible, why it sucks, and why you can't really call it must-see TV nowadays. And there's a lot of reasons why Monday Night Raw is no longer the must-see show in not just wrestling, but in life in general. Now, you could say that with other wrestling shows like NXT, Dynamite, Smackdown, hell, even TNA. Well, at least with Raw, you can try to, watch it with, as you could tell by the video side of things, there's a SpongeBob thumbnail of him just mindlessly watching it. But can you really get through 2 hours of TNA, or whatever to call it, Impact Wrestling? Can you really get through 2 hours of NXT and take away of, oh, this was actually good? Can you really? Now with Dynamite, there's actually some decent things going for it right now, but for me personally, I don't know. It's all right. It's all right in my book. I still think Smackdown is, before they started going downhill with this WrestleMania crap, it was one of the top shows along with Dynamite. I'll admit it. Dynamite and Smackdown are the top shows in wrestling right now. There's no questions asked. And Raw it's honestly the second worst. And that's saying something. It could be the worst, but there's TNA. It could be the worst if no one acknowledged TNA nowadays. So let's talk about Monday Night Raw. Why I think it sucks. I know there's plenty of other reasons why people think it sucks, but these are my personal reasons why I think Monday Night Raw is an absolute dread to watch nowadays, and personally why I don't think you should watch it either, and personally you shouldn't watch it. Now, point number one, why I think why Monday Night Raw sucks. The same repetitive matches happen every single week. Now, I get it. You have a brand split that happened back in 2016. You have about, on Monday Night Raw, 49 wrestlers that are about on Monday Night Raw. I see about half of them. The other half are in catering doing absolutely nothing. The other two, there's 51 in total when I checked the WWE wrestler page, as well as other sources. Becky Lynch and Lacey Evans are currently inactive because, they have their real life stuff going on with being mothers, and you gotta be mothers first and wrestlers last, and you gotta take care of your personal stuff first. So anyway, you have 49 wrestlers, 38 men, 11 women. It does, in paper, not sound like a lot, but still, you got to make use of all of them. 50 is, honestly, in my book, doable for 3 hours. If it's not doable, then call up some people from NXT. Call them up to the main roster. So, and honestly, they should. I was kind of surprised they didn't call anyone up from NXT the night after WrestleMania, which was kind of weird. And it's just kind of odd. It really is kind of odd. So ever since the brand split in 2016, Raw technically has typically been the more filled out roster than SmackDown because, well, it's 3 hours long. And we're going to get into that point about Raw being 3 hours later on in this show. But somehow, some way, we've gotten to the point where we're seeing a lot of repeat matches where X wrestler goes up against Y wrestler, or X team goes against Y team for the 10th billionth time, and sometimes even in consecutive weeks on the show. Like, for example, Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander face the recently returned Viking Raiders 2 straight weeks. Last week, when the Viking Raiders returned, and then this past week, what's the point? What are you doing here? If you wanted to establish the Viking Raiders are back, then couldn't you have used another tag team? Couldn't we have used another tag team? Miz and Morrison are there too. And Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods are there too, but you don't want to use them. And where are the Raw Tag Team Champions? AJ Styles and Omos. Couldn't you have used them too? I don't know. It's kind of baffling. And then you also had The Miz versus Damian Priest for 2 weeks straight. The only difference is Miz and Damian Priest traded wins. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Then let's also time travel back to 2016. I don't remember. I don't know if I remember this correctly, but didn't Sheamus and Cesaro have those bunch of repeat matches? But the only case I can make for that is that led to them ending up teaming up for Cesaro. I don't know, not their team name. Sheamus and Cesaro. That was the only lead up that went there. But the point is, we're getting a lot of repeat matches. We're also seeing that both on the men's side and the women's side. And if that was an indication enough when fans were there, you're definitely seeing it when the Thunderdome is there. You could say that ending the brand split is going to solve this issue where you got guys from SmackDown to face off guys against Raw, but in all honesty, that just means less TV time for the wrestlers that are currently there. Yes, I know most of the wrestlers that are currently featured on Raw suck, but isn't that why they're there on TV? To improve themselves as a wrestler as each and every week? Should they choose to do so? They should. They honestly should. But if you end the brand split, it means less TV time for most wrestlers, and it also means more. It's gonna lead to overexposure to a lot of the stars that people actually do care about, whether it's on the main event scene or the mid card, the upper mid card. And for a lot of people nowadays, people are gonna get upset about that, whether you're a casual or a hardcore fan. So you got to find a way to mix it up, even with what I think is a kind of limited but not so limited roster, you gotta find a way to make use of all these wrestlers without making the show feel like a real rerun. Have X wrestler face off against Y wrestler and then make them face different people the next week. It's gotten to a point where these repeat matches have to stop. But it's not just repeat matches, it's just repeat segments too. We've got to a point where the segments are also the same as these matches. Like this past week, Charlotte Flair cuts a promo in the first hour of Raw. Oh, she cuts a promo in the first hour of Raw, guys. Just like last week, where she cut the promo in the bottom half of Raw. Wow. So she pretty much explains the same promo from last week. She's a new Charlotte. She's gonna be Asuka. She's gonna have to go after Rhea Ripley. She's a star that shouldn't be missing WrestleMania. Yada yada yada. She's must-see TV. She pretty much did the exact same promo from the night after WrestleMania, and there's nothing more, nothing different. Then you also had Miz TV for 2 weeks straight, and the content was pretty much the same. I like Bad Bunny. I thought he did good at WrestleMania, and this Damian Priest guy sucks ass. And it led to a Damian Priest versus Miz, or in the case of last week on Monday Night Raw, the night after Mania, a Miz and Morrison handicap match versus Damian Priest. The only difference was, again, the outcome. What are we accomplishing by doing the same shit every single week, especially if there's no consequence or no follow-up? I don't know. It just kind of feels weird. It really does feel weird all around. I guess it's a tread of bad writing. Speaking of bad writing, there's a lot of bad storylines and stupid decisions being made revolving not just Raw itself, the show, but the people behind Monday Night Raw. Seriously, what is the WWE writing team, the creative, what have you? What are they smoking? What? What are they smoking every time they get together for their weekly creative meeting for Monday Night Raw? I think we smoked the wrong kind of crack, man. We gotta stay off the weed. Seriously, why are we having Matt Riddle ride around his damn scooter everywhere so like the heels can break it? Shouldn't we be presenting Matt Riddle as this former MMA fighter? But yeah, I mean, if we want to present him as goofy, don't present him as this like elementary school like idiot that rides a scooter everywhere. Save that for Nickelodeon. Save that for Cartoon Network. This is Monday Night Raw. This is where the big boys came to play. Then we have Alexa Bliss. Now first, I did like the Harley Quinn-esque character. I really did. I really thought it had potential. But I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing with it. Because after WrestleMania, I was kind of like, they really ditched Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, Firefly Funhouse Bray, for a doll named Lily. Really? I do give them, like, some kind of, I don't know if I should give them commendation or whatever the word is. I do give them, like, I don't know, I guess, like, some half plus for at least trying to explain how Alexa Bliss met Lily in her childhood this past Monday. But still, man, they really ruined this long-term story and this long-term storyline relationship between The Fiend and Alexa Bliss by having Bray Wyatt lose to Alexa, because Alexa is apparently doesn't need Bray Wyatt, has this higher power control at WrestleMania. It's kind of weird. Another example is turning viral trends into overdone storylines, overdone retreads. Super unnecessary. Just look at how and how long, how poorly executed, and how repetitive the whole Nia Jax, my Tana's hole, my hole thing. Look how overexposed that thing was. And then Mandy Rose's, the botch from WrestleMania where she slipped on the floor on the ramp because it was still slippery from all the rain. They managed to make a storyline between Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler based on that one botch. Like, really? This is your women's tag team storyline? And I guess that's just a way to further kill the women's tag team division, as if there weren't enough women's tag team to begin with. I mean, going even further back in time, the Bobby Lashley's sister segment in 2018, like, what was the point of that? And then who could forget about Retribution? I don't think we need to speak on that. Retribution. And then, obviously, a WrestleMania feud centering around Shane McMahon calling Braun Strowman stupid. And a lot of other questionable decisions, like putting Charlotte Flair into pretty much every major title feud, or just putting the strap on Charlotte when she doesn't need it. Like, come on, what are we doing here? What are we doing? And then recently, breaking up the Hurt Business right before WrestleMania. I get it. Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander are pretty much jobbers. But did we really need to break up this otherwise somewhat dominant stable before WrestleMania? These were just like same stable that held not just the WWE Championship, but the Raw Tag Team Championships heading into WrestleMania, and yet they decided to have Cedric and Shelton lose the titles to the New Day, only for the New Day to lose it to a makeshift tag team of AJ and Omos. And then the following week, they broke up. It's just kind of baffling. It's just really odd. I don't know. I guess the writing team is really smoking that match marking crack. They don't really care about the viewers that really strive for, the thing that makes wrestling, pro wrestling, sports entertainment. If you really want to please the match marks, you got to balance having matches and sports entertainment. We got to have that 50-50 split. If you want to have good matches, have actual caring stories in them that can be told in and out of the ring. Please. Is it that hard? Not just, I can do a 669 splash off the top rope 400 zillion times. It ain't that hard. And apparently it is hard because that's what they're doing to on Monday Night Raw. And there's also, continuing on with the point of bad writing and bad stories, there's also no effort from the writing team, and it's also gone to the point of the wrestlers themselves to not try when it comes to character development and trying to make themselves presentable, like larger than life personalities on TV. Like, isn't the point of a wrestling show to make people care about you, the wrestler? Now, outside of Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, and I guess to a degree, Alexa Bliss, does anyone really care about all the other wrestlers, whether you're a top star, mid-carder, lower mid-carder, jobber, what have you? Does anyone really care? And I feel like WWE doesn't want you to care because they don't do the one thing that they did back in the day. Remember back in the day when someone was about to make their debut, WWE would actually give a damn and hype up whoever said person is. They would put together a vignette. In other words, a video profile of who this person is, what's their gimmick, and if they already had matches, let's say they were in NXT or back in the day, Ohio Valley Wrestling, they would put together a video package of sorts and tell you who they were, what's their gimmick, like what's their history in wrestling. That they would tell you that. They would tell you that. Nowadays, they would just tell you to go Google search it. That's pretty much what it is. Yes, even in the year 2021, yes, we have Google. But is it really our job to go Google it, bitches, when it's really the WWE and wrestling in general? Is it really the viewer's job to Google search something when the point of a TV show is to tell you who these wrestlers are? You don't see America's Got Talent telling you or not telling you who these contestants are, or hell, even reality TV shows. They don't rely on the viewers Google searching things, do they? Like, come on. Hell, even Total Divas does a better job of telling you who these wrestlers are in and out of the ring. That's just sad. That really is sad. When Total Divas does a better job of telling you who these women's wrestlers are, better than Monday Night Raw and wrestling as a whole. That's sad. That really is sad. It's not only that. When they do eventually debut, they don't come up with a good gimmick, or they don't put in the effort to try to develop any sort of character or gimmick. I don't know if it's they don't have charisma or personality. I don't know. I really don't know what it is. I guess it's because WWE doesn't want to promote their wrestlers. They don't profile them in a meaningful way. But because they don't, people don't care about them. They don't give a shit about them. They don't learn anything new or interesting about them. They just feel like it's another guy or gal that's it's just another person wrestling on Monday Night Raw. And it also doesn't help when a lot of the roster doesn't look the part. It doesn't look like, oh, this guy can be a legit badass. Now, you can make up for that for good charisma, good personality, and a good gimmick. Just look at Sami Zayn. Although he's on Smackdown, and this is about Monday Night Raw, just look what he's doing with his conspiracy gimmick. And yes, he has that very long beard and long hair. Look what he's doing with this gimmick. He's actually taking the time to develop and improve as not just a wrestler, but as a character, which is an important aspect in wrestling even today. And look at Apollo Crews. Yes, they're both on SmackDown, but guys, is it really that hard? These are two guys that are currently on the opposite end of the week of wrestling that are improving their careers by developing a character. And we're going back in time again. Look at Daniel Bryan back in 2018 with his heel environmentalist gimmick. He actually tried back then. He actually did. Nowadays, I don't know. I don't see it. Except for Bobby Lashley and Drew. And I guess Alexa Bliss. It also doesn't help when almost a good chunk of the roster looks like, well, my fat ass, or a stick, or in the case of the woman, Seattle's Seahawks. You know, up there northwest in the NFC West driven Seattle Seahawks. I don't know, man. I really don't know. But again, you can compensate that with good character traits, good personality, good charisma. But again, it depends on the viewer. But again, nobody looks and feels like they should be on TV every Monday night. And then we get to the commentary. We get to the commentary on Monday Night Raw. Now, the commentary all around WWE, it's very bad. It is very, very bad. Especially when the commentary is being led by Joe Buck, the Joe Buck of WWE, Michael Cole. I don't understand. How did Tom Phillips, he was a decent and somewhat good commentator for SmackDown back in 2017. How was this dude turned into Joe Buck number 69 when he came to Monday Night Raw in 2020, back in January of last year? How did he get the Michael Cole Joe Buck-ism in him? It's sad. It very is sad. he just somehow managed to become bad. And he was especially bad when, just look at how he commentated WrestleMania 36. Especially that last man standing match where he commentated the whole match between Edge and Randy Orton like we were watching golf. And we were watching baseball or some shit. This ain't golf or baseball. This is professional wrestling. You should be excited for what's going on. And I totally get it. We were in the Performance Center during that time. But still, can you at least sound a little bit excited? And then we have Byron Saxton and Samoa Joe. And they added nothing to their analysis. So pretty much what I'm saying is all the commentary team nowadays does is go, oh, wow, whoa, oh my God. And at least with Michael Cole, like, I'll give him this, I guess. Michael Cole sucks. He still sounds like Joe Buck. But at least he adds something, I guess. He adds some proper analysis. And I don't know, man. So going back to Monday Night Raw. We're in the phase of the new era for what, the fifth time in like 5 years. I think it's five new commentary teams in 5 years since 2016. We're on our fourth new play-by-play guy. The first one was Vic Joseph, and I don't know why they needed to take off Vic Joseph. He was not that bad of a guy on commentary. And I know some people were like, oh, he's just Joe Buck, Michael Cole-ish, like he was down in NXT or such. He was not that bad. He actually tried to sound excited. He actually was excited at times. But then they got rid of him, and then we got Tom Phillips, who somehow regressed. And then we managed to get Adnan, I don't know how to pronounce it, Adnan Burke, who is supposedly from the MLB Network. I know the people that do know Major League Baseball know who he is. They pair him with Corey Graves and Byron Saxton. And from the YouTube clips and the Twitter highlights that I've seen and hear from this guy, my God. I don't know if WWE's trying to make him sound stupid, or he truly doesn't know what he's talking about. His style is just like Renee Young, but on commentary. Or like actual play-by-play. He goes like, oh, wow, oh my God. And he actually like asks questions like as if he doesn't know what's going on, like truly doesn't know what's going on. He would frequently ask, why would X wrestler do this? Why would X wrestler steal Matt Riddle's scooter? Like, dude, seriously? Like, come on, man. All I'm saying is, like, when you're at home, commentary is one of the most essential parts in not just wrestling, but in sports too. You can get away with not having to hear bad commentary, good or bad commentary, when you're watching live, of course. If the commentary is good, especially really good, you, the viewer, become actively hooked into the program. But if it's bad, you're gonna have a really hard time listening to the show. You're gonna have the vibes of, I want to mute this show. I really do. And that's what fans have been getting from Monday Night Raw for more than 5 years. I don't know. I guess they really got Adnan Burke, and I don't know. I don't know if they hired Adnan Burke to truly emphasize and vocalize how bad Monday Night Raw is every night, but I don't know. I don't know what the case is here with all the bad commentary that's happened over the years. But it's just so bad. It's just really bad. And then it's just so long. It is very long. It's a very long show. 3 hours doesn't seem like too long if you're like trying to pass by time or you're actually doing something productive. But 3 hours of Raw nowadays feels like a chore to get through because there's just so much stupidity happening. And it just feels so cluttered and filler. Back in the day when they started doing this in 2012, they actually managed it decently, but that was only because there's no brand split back then. And like I said earlier, that meant less TV time for a lot of wrestlers and more overexposure for a lot of the top guys in more than 2 segments. But again, is it really that hard to streamline the show for 3 hours? And again, you have on paper a limited roster with almost 50 people, both men and women. But is it kind of hard? You have at least an opening segment, match. You have to have at least a vignette in at least 2 of the 3 hours to at least try to build a person's character or gimmick. Even if they're not debuting, at least profile them, make people care about them. Then you have another match of sorts. Then in hour 2, another match, a segment, an interview, another segment or a match, and then another segment, a vignette, a main event match, or in another main event segment or a match. Then the show ends. I mean, is it hard? Is it really hard? Now, from what I just attempted to try to make Raw a balanced show, it seems to be a little bit more flexible on paper, but honestly, I could do a lot better. But still, they have to make the show a lot more flowing. They have to make it a lot more flowing instead of trying to like pass the show by. Now it'd be easier to say, oh, they need to go back to 2 hours. But as much as I want to have that happen too, it's the ad money, the TV revenue from USA Network that's stopping WWE from going back to 2 hours, just like Smackdown. And honestly, I don't see that happening anytime soon. And that's not really going to happen. So since they can't go back to 2 hours, at least make Raw more tolerable. Make those 3 hours more damn tolerable. Do some profiles. Develop some interesting gimmicks and characters. Balance match marking with character value. I mean, this is sports entertainment at the end of the day. It's like, if you want to try to be a sport, balance sports with entertainment. It's sports entertainment, goddammit. And last but not least, there's nothing noteworthy to make you tune into next week. Let's take a look at the last 2 endings to Raw. We had Drew McIntyre getting beat up by 2 jobbers, T-Bar and Mace. Wow. So what will casual see? What will casual be invested in when Drew McIntyre got beat up by 2 dudes that pretty much had no credibility for the last how many months? Like 8 months. Why should they tune in for next week? Other than, maybe why? But then again, look at the 2 guys that attacked Drew McIntyre. Or how about this week? Charlotte Flair beat up a referee because she lost to Asuka on a distraction from Rhea Ripley. Yeah, that looks realistic. What happened to these endings to Monday Night Raw that would leave you wondering what's gonna happen next week? What's gonna lead the show to next week? I don't know. It just feels like those endings nowadays feel like, okay, Raw's over. Time to watch the next show or go to sleep. Man, I don't know. It just feels like the days of Raw, of talking about what happened during the show, or talking about the endings or storylines with everything that was cool about it. It's over. It really is over. But yeah, it somehow still manages to suck either way. And the reason why for all the reasons I mentioned, Raw will continue to suck. And again, for all the reasons that I mentioned, Raw will continue to suck. Among many others that are out there, it'll suck even harder for one simple reason. One simple reason alone. The average hardcore wrestling fan out there will continue to watch it no matter what. I know there's always that old saying that gets thrown out there to fans, whether you're a casual or a hardcore fan. If you don't like it, then don't watch it. It always gets thrown out there. It really does. I see it in YouTube comments. I see it in Twitter conversations, in Twitter posts. I always see it. I do it I see it every so often. It always gets thrown out, especially in the wrestling community, but most fans, at least what I think they are, they don't take it to heart. They really don't take it to heart. And there's a reason for that too. Views and clicks. Yeah, they watch this show mindlessly, unnecessarily, because they want to do it for whatever reason, for a Raw review video, a Raw review live stream, Raw review podcast episode, whatever. Now, sure, some have to, because they actually run like websites that generate money, like NoDQ.com, Wrestling Inc., BleacherReport.com/WWE. So those writers, those website owners actually have to sacrifice 3 hours of their day to watch Monday Night Raw, so you don't have to. So for those of you that do have to commit, I salute you. I truly salute you. But others, though, that for some reason choose to sacrifice 3 hours of their day to watch this shit show, they complain. They complain about how bad this show is. They complain about these same matches, these same segments, no star power, bad creative, and all that. And yet they still watch it. They still review it. They still get on their microphones, turn on their camera, get their layouts ready to record a 30-minute, 10-minute, 2-hour plus long, sometimes even, review of the shit show that is Monday Night Raw each and every week. It's kind of crazy when you ask me when people still do this. It really is. So I do want to ask you, whether you're a casual listening to this podcast, if you happen to catch it, or a so-called true wrestling fan that reviews this shit show for a living, at least that's what you claim. I do want to ask you this. How hard is it for any of you, to let go of watching Monday Night Raw for at least 1 week? How hard is it for you to take a break? Is it going to affect the viewership of your Instagram page, your YouTube channel, your Twitter followers? Are you going to lose any clout or ad revenue? Will you lose any knowledge of what's happening on the show by not just simply going to Bleacher Report or other wrestling websites to catch up on the results, or going to YouTube highlights or Twitter highlights and whatnot? What are you exactly losing by skipping 1 week of Raw? Really? So if you really believe Raw consistently sucks, and this is the point where I'm getting with the people that watch Monday Night Raw suck too, is that they're not doing anything about it. They're consistently watching this show endlessly. They're consistently watching the show week in and week out and not making a change about it. And not just on the WWE side of things, but the people watching it. They're not doing anything about it. Especially the hardcore wrestling fan continues to watch this show no matter how bad, no matter how stupid this show makes you feel. So if you really believe that Raw consistently sucks, do something. Do something. Don't get on your phones. Don't go straight to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Don't put out a social media post going, oh, why did they do this to Charlotte Flair? Why did they go freaking do this to Kate Flair or whatever? Oh man, this segment sucks ass. Don't do that. Don't do that, because more likely than not, WWE will not listen to you like they haven't done in the last 5+ years or so, most of the time. Because if WWE continues to lackadaisically half-ass their longest weekly episodic what have you show, because it doesn't feel like that way, then you speak with your remote. Change that channel. Watch something else. Go watch The Animal Planet. Go watch Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dine or something. Go watch a movie on HBO Max, or go watch The Office on Peacock or whatever. Watch a movie on TBX or FX, or I don't know, watch Family Feud with Steve Harvey or whatever. I don't know, watch your favorite show or whatever on your favorite channel that's not Monday Night Raw. Watch or do something that doesn't make you feel any more stupid on a Monday night other than watch Monday Night Raw for 1 week. I challenging the IWC, everybody in the IWC that for some reason watches Monday Night Raw, no matter how stupid it is, to watch Monday Night Raw, not watch Monday Night Raw, to skip Monday Night Raw, not just for 1 week, but maybe 2 weeks. If it does wonders for you for 1 week, then do it for 2 weeks. Because honestly, it honestly does wonders for you by skipping a stupid shit show. Now, I may be a podcast with very little clout, but I hope this challenge reaches out to at least some people, because you gotta at least give it a shot. You gotta at least give something a shot. Like, at least try skipping a stupid shit show that is Raw for 1 week. And if you really need that fill up Monday Night Raw, go just look at the results online. I'm pretty sure you can see what's happening. You can know what's going on, even if it's not a visual aspect of the show, by not seeing, or by checking out the results on BleacherReport.com or another wrestling site. So if you do happen to skip Raw, for however many people do this challenge, if there are changes in viewership or show quality from WWE after this little challenge, then good. If the show still sucks and the rating is still somehow goes up like it did this week, I mean, at least I tried. At least I tried to convince you. And it just goes to show that WWE will never truly listen to this fan. And, sometimes it shouldn't, but at least we tried to make a change and tried to, entice some effort from WWE. At least try to entice some convincing of they need to try with WWE. But all in all, Monday Night Raw sucks. And it's your weekly Monday reminder that wrestling is dead. Pro wrestling as a whole is dead. And no, AEW Dynamite will likely not change that, at least for the foreseeable future. Monday Night Raw is that weekly reminder that wrestling and its fans will continue to dig its own grave until you challenge yourselves to do something about it. Challenge yourselves to not watch this show for at least 1 week, and perhaps give WWE something to, do something about. Give WWE a wake-up call. Speak with your remotes, not your phones. And if somehow WWE finds me shitting about this, then fine. I don't care. I'm just a dude in a room speaking on a microphone, a Yeti blue microphone. I don't give a shit. Bring it on. And we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about with Monday Night Raw. Why I personally think it sucks. There are a million other reasons why it sucks from other YouTubers, podcasters, site reviewer, rep sites, what have you. But my opinion, Raw sucks because no characters, no storylines, no larger than life personalities, bad commentary, a lot of reasons why I mentioned it sucks. But it's not just why Raw sucks. The people that watch it suck too, because they mindlessly watch it for no reason other to get a view or a click on their review. But that's just my opinion, and I really hope that you at least try to skip it on this past Monday. And if you don't, then I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. But anyway, that's it for this episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast. I'm your host, DylanLasagna. Make sure to follow me on social media at Very Cold Lasagna on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure to listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Anchor FM, and Spotify. And if you're watching this podcast version of the podcast, make sure to subscribe to me on YouTube and turn on that notification bell. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports and wrestling very cold. And until next time, peace out.